Hello, welcome to another episode of Piano TV, and I'm just here quickly to talk about ear training. We've done a lot of videos on this channel. I was going to say we've done a lot of videos on ear training on this channel. Both of those statements are true. But I think what I want to do today is think outside the box of exercises. I recently did an entire 30-day series on specific tactical, 5-minute exercises you can do to develop your ear. And I want to think in a different way today. I want to think about what are some of the common pitfalls that people experience when they're ear training. And again, I'm not going to the, they can't tell if the notes are going up or down. We're not in that realm today. If I'm thinking a little bit more expansively about what the most common problems people have with ear training are, it tends to be related to the imagination. It tends to relate to compartmentalization, memory, and attention. So I've got 3 suggestions that you can use as sort of practical things that you can do. So I'm not going to be too abstract that we're just going to be thinking about things but not actually applying anything to your playing. But we're going to be a little bit more out there. So anyway, let's get started. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so the big umbrella that all 3 of these ideas fit under is just a question, and it's a simple one. Can you imagine sound? We think about the imagination a lot when it comes to images, right? Can you close your eyes and imagine a piano? Something like that, right? I think it's something like 1% of people have aphantasia and actually can't do that. I don't know if it's a different ballpark when it comes to sound. What I do know is that since sound isn't like a physical we could argue on the nuance of if it's a physical substance, but you can't see it. Typically, you cannot see sound. It's a little bit harder for people to imagine. I think just by default, we tend to rely really heavily on our sense of sight and our ability to kind of discern things by sound, or our spatial, our spatial mapping is generally pretty good, but our oral mapping usually leaves a lot to be desired. So can you imagine sound? That's the thing I want you to think about. Now, we have exercises related to that. So if you want to develop your ability to imagine sound, then you can basically take the same approach you would use in developing your visual imagination. In developing your visual imagination, you might, I'm just looking in the room in front of me, you might stare at your coffee cup for a few seconds or a minute or something like that, just kind of try to memorize the visual details of it, and then you're going to close your eyes. There is the coffee cup, I'm imagining it. We could do something kind of like that, but with sound. What you can do is you can sit down at your piano, you can clunk a note, any note you want. I'd stick to single notes and single tones when you're just getting started. Maybe middle C, plunk that baby down and listen to it. Stop playing the sound. You don't have to close your eyes, but I guess you could if it helps you focus. Can you replay or recall that sound in your head? The specific tone, the specific resonance, the pitch, the feel, if you have an acoustic piano, the way it vibrates. Can you recall that? And if that goes pretty well for you, if you can clunk a note and repeat it, one actually thing that music teachers will sometimes do is get you to imitate. So they might play something on the piano and then you have to vocally imitate it, let's say. So if you can clunk down middle C, hear it in your head, and then regenerate middle C by vocalizing it, that would be a really good indication that you have at least some limited ability to imagine sound. This is in a really simple way. So that's let's call that tactic or exercise 1 to develop your ability to imagine sound. Now, we can make this a little bit more complicated. Can you hear larger excerpts beyond just a single note? And where this comes into play in practical terms is when you're practicing a piece of music. Whatever you have on your piano bench right now, whatever you're practicing at, whatever that is, can you look at that music? Actually, let's not even look at it. Can you just recall it? Can you hum the opening measures? And if this seems a little abstract to you, could you hum the opening guitar chords of your favorite song or something like that? Can you hear it? Is there an inner sense of playback? Again, not just recalling a direct note on the keyboard, but can you actually call to mind maybe the opening 5 seconds? We don't want to do the whole piece or anything like that. That gets a little bit complex. I like keeping focused with piano music, although music of your youth and your favorite music is often a much more kind of strong oral memory. I like the simplicity of piano only music because we don't have to also try to recall drums and guitars and all these other instruments and the whole like wash of sound. We just have to kind of remember the pitches themselves. Like it's just, we're keeping it a lot more simple to one instrument. So whatever you've got on the bench, next time you sit down to practice it, can you, before you play it, can you hear it in your head? Can you maybe hear the first two measures, the tempo, the pitch, the feel, the flavor, and then start playing your piece? Or another way that you could try this is you could play your piece for, I don't know, a few moments, like maybe 8 measures or something like that, and then stop. Can your mind continue the piece? Now, we're assuming this is a piece you've been practicing. It's something that you've played enough times that you've created some kind of possibility for an oral memory. Now, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned a couple things that we need to rely on in order to develop our imagination for sound, and memory is a big part of that. So if your memory is the inhibiting factor, that's going to be a totally separate thing to address. For most people, if you play something over and over and over again, you're just going to kind of intuitively, naturally develop memory for it. Some people who struggle with memory are going to be a lot more inhibited in their ability to recall sound. And that's that would be a totally different video or set of videos, a series maybe. Maybe we'll do a 30-day series on that someday, how to improve your memory as it particularly relates to music, but any memory enhancing techniques that don't have to do with music would work here as well. So that, again, that's tactic number 2. Can you imagine for a few seconds your music, whether it's the beginning of your music that you're practicing, whether it's the middle of the music that you're practicing, can like the ghost of the tune and the harmony and the melody kind of play on in your head, even if you've stopped actually playing? If you're able to do that, you probably have a decent ear. That's probably a good sign. Another, and this is going to be my third suggestion, can you not just hear it in your head, but can you vocalize it? We talked about this a little bit in my first suggestion, but the idea of vocalization is one that basically takes something concrete, then you're imagining it, so it becomes non-concrete, and then you're putting it back out as like a concrete thing again by vocalizing it. So it's harder to do than just holding the music in your head. Because a lot of people have a pretty good memory for, like a decent memory for hearing the music in their head. But when it comes to like put that back out there in the world again as like a vocalization, you might hear these like angelic choruses in your head, and then blah, kind of comes out instead of all the beauty that you're hearing in your head. So being able to vocalize it, I think, is still a really important part of this, of the development of your ear, because it basically fine-tunes your ability to match what kind of lies in the ether and mimic it, basically mirror it. It basically just allows you to bridge the gap a little bit between your oral imagination. And every time I'm saying oral, I want you to know that's the AURAL version of the word, not the like literal mouth version. Anyway, that's a side note. But we're trying to bridge these two things and make them as close together as possible. Because, I mean, it's all well and good to have an imagination for sound in your head, but if that's way over here and what you vocalize is way over here, we want to try to bring those as close together as we can, because then you're going to actually be able to do skillful reproduction. Your ability to hear something and vocalize it is really closely tied to your ability to basically sit down and play something off the cuff. If you hear a song, you can kind of hear it in your head, da 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 da. You can kind of sing it. Oh, okay, that's what the notes are going to be on the piano, and then you can like make that an actual thing. It's very difficult to make it an actual thing if those two components lie really far away from each other. So what you can practice is you could practice. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could go about this. I would just practice singing first and foremost. I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to develop my ear, and then they never sing. Singing, I think, is, even as a piano player, even if you don't think you have a good voice, learning about pitch and trying to bridge the gap with like what you're hearing and what you're generating and trying to make those move closer is all part of the same process. This is where at the very beginning I mentioned the word compartmentalization. This is a really common problem with people who are thinking about ear training. It's like when you're sitting down to play music or learn piano or something like that, you've got the box for sight reading, you've got the box for ear training, you got the box for technique, got the box for your pieces, and so on. And we think in compartments. And I mean, I as a teacher don't do a good job of making this a little bit more unified. I myself also teach them in compartments. So it's important to remember that ear training is not like a separate box from the rest of your practice. It's all kind of a part of the same pool. And the only way that you can really, I think, meaningfully make progress with your ear training is to integrate it a little bit more in the rest of your practice, but also the rest of your life. Like singing in the car, or humming a tune, or you can do little exercises with yourself to vocalize. You can play a very small pattern on the keyboard. Actually, even for people who have no sense of tune, play a middle tone on the keyboard, like middle C. Just hold that tone and try to match it. Even if you're all by yourself, you have no sense of pitch, and you have no one to correct you. A lot of people, I think, have success with this if they start thinking in terms of like the vibrational frequencies, because you can sort of feel a mismatched pitch versus a matched pitch, even if you can't hear it at first. There's a really unpleasant vibration when the pitches are disharmonious. That's why a lot of people who have no sense of pitch and can't really carry a tune still tend to, if they do this exercise, still tend to find a note that is at least harmonically pleasant. So if I'm playing a ba middle C on the piano, maybe they'll miss it and they'll sing an E da, but they still resonate nicely together. So it doesn't sound as harsh. It doesn't have as harsh as a vibrational frequency as if you hear like C, C, ja. Like those two tones are really, really rough when you hear them up against each other. But being able to play short excerpts on the piano, or whatever you're learning, whatever's on your bench, if it has a melody, probably has a melody, most pieces do. If that melody is something that you can sing, maybe, and this is something I've encouraged my students towards as well in our lessons. If your melody is like ba da 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 da, you play that on the piano, it's all well and good, but could you sing it? Could you ba da 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 da? Would you be able to recreate it? Anyways, this is hopefully something that I tried to make it as tactical as possible while being a little bit less tethered to like the strict sort of compartmentalized exercises of ear training. The thing I want you to take away more than anything else, though, is can you imagine sound? And depending on what your answer is to that, how do you, and most of us, I think, could stand to improve our ability to imagine sound. So what are some things you can do in your daily life, not just like for 2 minutes on the side, part of your piano practice, part of your life itself, that allow you to imagine sound more clearly, because that's ear training. All right, so I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you try any of these out, or if you have your own kind of, I know there's a lot of, there's so many of you who watch these videos who are really cool, interesting, awesome people. And it's always wonderful if you toss your 2 cents into the arena in the comments of these videos. It's helpful to other people, and I enjoy it as well. So I invite you to do that as well. You can join my mailing list. I'll link that below, because that sometimes I don't do videos. Sometimes I just like to write. And if you want to kind of stay in the loop of everything that's going on, that's the best way to do so. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.